We're here with Sacred Heart Athletics Director Don Cook. He's the chair of the Northeast Conference AD's committee. Coach Cook, welcome back to the Northeast Conference office. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the conversation that's happening in the room today?
Well, Ralph, we're in the midst of a very stressful period in the history of the NCAA, and obviously it filters down to conferences and to institutions as to just how to navigate some of the rapid change that is going on. The last fall when we met, we talked about the realignment of some of the conferences and the impact that might have in a way of a trickle down. Now in January, as a result of a lot of the issues that have impacted the national landscape, we have to start now talking about issues that, for example, impact financial aid and multi-year scholarships. We devoted a fair amount of time this morning talking about the effect that the cost of attendance stipend is going to have in terms of how institutions will need to manage that going forward. As we all know, there was a pushback when that came forward back in November, and we had an override of over 160 institutions that said, no, this is not good timing. We don't know the conditions or the guidelines of which will apply in administering the award. You're going to have to go back and redo this, and so that's where we're at right now. And then the multi-year scholarship is another issue that we spent some time on, and there is no one in our room that was in favor of that. I think that the intent was to see what could be done to protect the academic interests of athletes that no longer continue playing for whatever reason that might be. But on the other hand, it puts the coaches and it puts athletic staffs in a very difficult place, having to make a long-term commitment to an athlete that may or may not be able to be that competitive or even have an interest in continuing as an athlete, and yet will be committed to the multi-year commitment. So there are those issues. We talked about summer school and the amount of time that coaches can have access to student athletes, both freshmen and upperclassmen, that they'll have to be registered in summer school in order to have access to the coaches and for 8 hours of instruction. So that's another one. All of these have very specific criteria associated with them. We see the value in getting the athletes a jump start academically going into a new year. We see that there's a lot of support for coaches to be able to help develop athletes during the summer period. But on the other hand, there has to be some control over it. So they established it to be a maximum of 8 weeks in which they'd be permitted to do that.
Now, you gave us a great update on what's going on the national level and how it could affect us here in the Northeast Conference. But were there any NEC specific issues within the league alone, less of a macro view and more of a micro view of that was talked about today?
Well, actually, it was the macro view that is impacting us in a micro context, because the filter down of this legislative change is going to impact all of our institutions. The cost of attendance issue, as an example, we don't even know. Some of us don't even know how can we afford to even pay for this. As a conference, the sentiment was very strong that this might be easy for the high majors to be able to do, the BCS institutions to do, and they would have no difficulty with either that or the multi-year commitment on scholarship. But these all come down to be very serious local economic issues to be addressed, and they take time. And what was happening with the COA legislation is that it was imposed upon us almost overnight, and we had no way to adjust to it and didn't even know what the criteria were going to be.
So, in other words, your budgets, of course, weren't ready to absorb this and such, but now have they tabled, not tabled it, but have they opened up a period for more discussion and more planning and trying to get this right, so to speak, rather than just rush through it.
I think that's exactly what's happened here, and that's what the message was with the override, is that, I would be open to looking at something that has some balance, that's sequenced in, that has connected to it some economic efficiencies, and that it can be managed. But not something like that comes down in November and you have to react to it. Some student athletes are going to get the stipend because of the early signing period, and others in April are not going to get it at all because it's in that suspended state. So it's kind of chaotic, to be frank about it. So these are very sensitive times. I think if they spent a little more time giving it more structure and explanation and guidelines, maybe we wouldn't be as upset with it or pushing back on it. But they came at us too quickly.
Now, you certainly gave us a great update here, and I don't want to hold you any longer from lunch, but quickly, what does it mean to get together with your peers here in the Northeast Conference, with folks like John Suarez or Jack McDonald, Lynn Robinson, and such?
Well, it's always a treat to get together with those people. But what it does for us, it's a wonderful opportunity to share our own experience from our own local vantage point on campus and just see collaboratively how much we do have in common about a lot of it. We're a very diverse conference, but I'll tell you one thing, when it comes to the big issues, thanks to the leadership of Noreen, we are able to come together on the major issues. We don't agree on everything, and why should we? That wouldn't even make good sense. You want some diverse opinion, different perspectives, but what I like about the group the most is that it's a very collegial group, and there's mutual respect for opinion, and there's no one right answer to anything, and we all acknowledge that that's the case.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the day here at the NEC.